Widow whipped 100 times for infertility. A single father took her to his bed as his wife. She dreamed of a peaceful home, shared meals, laughter in the evenings, and children playing in the yard. For a short time, life felt normal. Her husband was kind, not perfect, but respectful. They worked hard together and hoped that time would bring everything they wished for. But years passed and no child came. At first, there was patience. Neighbors offered advice, elders suggested remedies, and relatives reminded her to stay hopeful. She listened quietly and followed every suggestion given to her. She prayed, waited, and tried to remain strong. Inside, however, fear slowly grew. In her community, a woman's value was often unfairly tied to things beyond her control. She knew this truth, even if no one said it directly. Her husband stood by her during those early years. He defended her when people whispered and reassured her when she cried at night. Yet life can be cruel in ways no one expects. One winter, sickness spread through the area and her husband did not survive. His death came suddenly, leaving her shocked and unprepared. In a single moment, she lost not only the man she loved but also the shield that protected her from judgment. As a widow, her place in society changed overnight. People who once greeted her warmly now avoided her eyes. Conversations stopped when she entered a room. Some pitied her, but pity quickly turned into suspicion. Without a husband and without children, she no longer fit into the roles people understood. She became an easy target for blame, especially when misfortune struck the village, failed crops, illness, or arguments among families. Rumors began quietly, like a slow-moving shadow. Some said she carried bad luck. Others claimed her inability to have children proved something was wrong with her. No one considered kindness or fairness. Old beliefs were repeated so often that people stopped questioning them. She heard these words but said nothing. Speaking out would only make things worse. Her days grew lonely. She worked where she could, often taking on the hardest tasks because no one else wanted her around. She kept her head down and tried not to draw attention. At night, she sat alone, thinking about how quickly life had changed. Grief mixed with fear, and fear slowly turned into silence. One day, village leaders called a gathering. She was told to stand before them while others watched from a distance. The accusations were vague but heavy. They blamed her for things she could not explain or defend herself against. Tradition, they said, demanded a response. Their words were firm, leaving no room for mercy. She felt small, powerless, and deeply alone. What followed was a public punishment meant to correct her, though it corrected nothing. It was carried out without cruelty in words but without compassion in action. She endured it quietly, refusing to cry out. She focused on surviving each moment, telling herself that pain would pass even if the memory would not. The people watching did not see a human being, they saw a symbol of their fears. When it was over, she was sent away. No one offered comfort. No one apologized. She returned to her small home, moving slowly, both in body and in spirit. The physical pain faded with time, but something inside her had broken. Trust in people, in fairness, in the idea that goodness was rewarded. It all felt distant. Yet even in her lowest moments, she did not give up. Each morning, she rose and forced herself to continue. She cleaned, worked, and helped where she could, even when kindness was not returned. Survival became her quiet victory. She learned to rely on herself to find strength where none seemed left. She stopped expecting understanding from others. Instead, she focused on small things, the warmth of sunlight, the comfort of routine, the simple fact that she was still alive. Though her heart carried deep scars, she did not allow bitterness to consume her. Somewhere inside, a small hope remained, fragile but alive. She did not know then that her story was far from over. She did not know that beyond the boundaries of her village, someone would one day see her not as a burden or a symbol, but as a person. For now, all she knew was how to endure, and sometimes, endurance itself is the bravest act of all. After the difficult events that changed her life, she began spending more time away from her own village. Not because she wanted to escape responsibility, but because the air there felt heavy with judgment. Every path reminded her of whispers and cold stares. So she accepted small work in nearby places, helping with cleaning, caring for animals, or assisting older women who needed an extra pair of hands. These tasks allowed her to earn a little and, more importantly, breathe without fear. One morning, she was sent to help at a modest home on the edge of another village. The house belonged to a man who lived quietly with his young child. He had lost his wife some years earlier and managed everything on his own. Life had made him careful and reserved, but not unkind. He greeted her politely and explained the work without suspicion or harshness. That alone felt different from what she was used to. She noticed how the house was clean but simple, and how the child watched her with curious eyes. The child was quiet, well-mannered, and clearly missing a mother's care, though no one said it aloud. As she worked, she treated the child gently, offering smiles and patience. The man observed this quietly, not interfering but taking note of her calm presence. Over the next few weeks, she returned to the house several times. Each visit felt easier than the last. No one questioned her past. No one looked at her with blame. The man spoke to her with respect, asking about her day or offering tea during breaks. Their conversations were small at first, about work, weather, or village news, but even these simple talks felt meaningful to her. The man had learned through hardship. Losing his wife had forced him to grow strong in ways he never expected. He worked long hours and returned home tired, yet he never complained. Raising a child alone had taught him patience and humility. When he looked at her, he did not see rumors or labels. He saw someone who carried pain quietly and still showed kindness. She, in turn, noticed his steady nature. He did not raise his voice. He listened more than he spoke. He treated his child with care and discipline, not anger. Watching him, she felt a sense of safety she had not felt in a long time. It was not sudden or overwhelming, just a calm understanding that this place did not demand explanations. One afternoon, as they sat outside while the child played nearby, the man gently asked about her life. His voice carried no judgment, only curiosity. She hesitated at first, unsure how much to share, but something about his tone made honesty feel possible. She spoke simply, without details, explaining that she had lost her husband and had faced difficult times afterward. She did not ask for sympathy, and he did not offer pity. He listened quietly and nodded, acknowledging her words. From that day on, their connection deepened, not through grand gestures but through consistency. He trusted her in his home. She trusted him with her silence and effort. The child grew comfortable around her, often seeking her help or company. This brought a warmth to the house that had been missing. Still, she remained cautious. Life had taught her not to hope too quickly. She reminded herself that kindness did not always last, yet the man's behavior never changed. Whether others were watching or not, he treated her the same. That consistency slowly built something stronger than words. People in the nearby village noticed her presence at the man's home. As expected, questions began. Some offered advice, others hinted at gossip, but the man did not entertain it. He kept his focus on his work and his home. He had learned long ago that peace was found by choosing what to ignore. One evening, after a long day, he spoke openly. He said life was not meant to be carried alone forever. He did not promise ease or perfection. He spoke of partnership, shared responsibility, and mutual respect. His words were careful and sincere, not rushed. He made it clear that any decision would be hers without pressure. She was surprised by his honesty. No one had spoken to her like that since her husband passed away. She asked for time, needing to understand her own feelings. He agreed without hesitation, giving her space to think. That night, she reflected on her journey. She thought about how far she had come, from shame and isolation to being seen and respected again. She was still afraid, but fear no longer ruled her completely. For the first time in a long while, the future did not feel closed. She did not answer him immediately, but inside her something had shifted. She realized that healing did not come all at once. It came slowly, through moments of trust, through people who chose kindness even when it was not easy. And though she did not yet know what her answer would be, she understood one thing clearly: she was no longer invisible. She took her time before giving an answer. For days, she continued her work as usual, helping in the house, caring for the child, and keeping her thoughts to herself. The man did not ask again or pressure her. He behaved the same way he always had, calm and respectful. This patience made her feel even more certain that whatever decision she made would be honored. Inside her heart, there was a quiet struggle. Part of her wanted to believe that a new beginning was possible. Another part feared disappointment. She had learned, through pain, that hope could be fragile, yet each day in that house felt different from her past. There was no shouting, no blame, no fear of sudden judgment. The child's laughter, the steady routine, and the man's quiet strength slowly eased her doubts. One evening, after the child had fallen asleep, she finally spoke. Her voice was soft but steady. She said she was willing to accept a shared life, as long as it was built on respect and honesty. She made it clear that she carried wounds from the past and needed patience. The man listened carefully and agreed without hesitation. He said he did not expect perfection, only truth and effort. Their decision was simple and private. There was no celebration or public announcement. In time, people came to know, but the couple did not seek approval. They focused on building a home that felt safe and balanced. The woman moved in quietly, bringing only a few belongings but carrying with her a deep sense of responsibility. Life together was not without challenges. They were both shaped by loss, and sometimes silence filled the space between them. But instead of letting distance grow, they learned to talk through small moments. The man shared stories of his late wife, not with sadness alone, but with gratitude. The woman listened with understanding, never feeling threatened by the past. In return, she spoke of her own experiences slowly when she felt ready. The child adjusted quickly. Having another caring adult in the home brought warmth and stability. The woman treated the child with kindness and guidance, not trying to replace anyone but offering what she could. Over time, the child began to seek her comfort naturally, trusting her presence. This bond became one of the strongest parts of their shared life. The household found its rhythm. Mornings were busy with tasks, afternoons quieter, evenings calm. They worked side by side, sharing responsibilities without keeping score. The woman took pride in contributing, not as a favor but as an equal partner. The man appreciated her efforts, often thanking her in simple ways that made her feel valued. Outside the home, reactions were mixed. Some people questioned the man's choice. Others whispered about the woman's past. But the man did not allow these voices to shape his actions. He stood firm, making it clear that his home was not open for judgment. This quiet protection gave the woman strength. She no longer felt the need to explain herself to anyone. There were moments when old fears returned. A careless comment from a neighbor or a familiar look could still hurt. When this happened, the man noticed. He did not dismiss her feelings or tell her to be strong. Instead, he reminded her that her worth was not defined by others. These small reassurances slowly replaced the harsh words she had carried for so long. As time passed, trust grew deeper. They learned each other's habits, strengths, and weaknesses. Disagreements happened, but they were handled with calm discussion, not anger. Each problem solved together added another layer of understanding. The woman realized that partnership did not mean losing herself. It meant being accepted as she was. She also began to change within herself. The constant tension she once carried began to fade. She slept better, laughed more, and allowed herself moments of peace. She no longer woke each day expecting trouble. Instead, she focused on what was in front of her: a home, a family, and a chance to live without fear. The man, too, found healing. Sharing responsibilities eased his burden. Seeing his child happy brought him quiet joy. He appreciated the woman's presence, not just for what she did, but for who she was. Her resilience inspired him, reminding him that strength could exist without harshness. Together, they created something steady. Not perfect, not free from struggle, but real. Their bond was built on choice, not pressure, on understanding, not tradition. And while the world outside continued with its noise and opinions, inside their home there was calm. By choosing each other, they proved that broken pasts did not prevent a meaningful future. Sometimes it was through shared patience and quiet respect that the deepest healing began. Time passed quietly, measured not by big events but by small changes that slowly shaped their lives. The woman no longer counted days with fear. Instead, she marked time by shared meals, by the child's growing confidence, and by evenings spent in calm conversation. What once felt temporary now felt steady. The house that had once been only a shelter had become a true home. As seasons changed, so did the way people looked at her. At first, neighbors watched from a distance. They noticed how the child was healthy and well cared for. They saw the man working as usual, his life stable rather than troubled. Slowly, curiosity replaced suspicion. A few people began greeting her politely. Some even asked for help or advice, surprised by her patience and gentle manner. She did not seek acceptance, but she welcomed it when it came. She understood that opinions often changed slowly. Instead of focusing on the past, she focused on what she could control: her actions, her kindness, and her responsibility toward her family. This quiet confidence spoke louder than any explanation. The child grew closer to her with each passing month. School days brought stories, questions, and laughter into the home. She helped with lessons, listened to worries, and celebrated small successes. The child, in return, trusted her deeply. This bond filled a space in her heart she once believed would always remain empty. She realized that care and love were not limited by biology. They were built through presence and effort. The man watched this relationship with gratitude. He saw how the woman's presence shaped the child's behavior and confidence. He also noticed how she herself had changed. The fear in her eyes had softened. Her voice carried more certainty. She smiled more easily. These changes reminded him that healing was not sudden, but it was real. There were moments when memories of the past returned, especially during quiet nights or familiar village gatherings. Sometimes, the woman felt a sudden heaviness, as if old wounds were reminding her they existed. When this happened, she no longer faced it alone. The man listened without judgment, offering reassurance through understanding rather than advice. This support helped her face memories without being trapped by them. Gradually, her story became known, not as gossip but as an example. Some women quietly approached her, sharing their own struggles. She listened, never claiming to have answers, only offering empathy. Her calm strength gave others courage to speak about their own pain. In this way, her experience began to serve a greater purpose. The village, though slow to change, could not ignore what was visible. The woman was no longer the figure people once blamed. She was a partner, a caretaker, and a steady presence in her community. The man's choice, once questioned, now seemed wise to many. Respect grew not because of tradition, but because of lived truth. One day, during a simple gathering, an elder spoke kindly to her, acknowledging her contribution to the household and the child's well-being. The words were brief but meaningful. She accepted them with grace, not pride. Inside, she felt a sense of closure, not because she needed approval, but because it marked how far she had come. At home, life continued with its usual rhythm. Challenges still appeared: illness, financial worries, misunderstandings, but they were faced together. Each problem solved strengthened their partnership. They had learned that stability was built through cooperation, not perfection. The woman began to understand her own worth in a new way. She was no longer defined by what she lacked, but by what she gave. Her journey had taught her patience, resilience, and compassion. These qualities, once hidden beneath pain, now shaped her identity. The man, too, reflected on their shared life. He knew his decision had changed all of them. He felt pride not in defying others, but in choosing humanity over fear. His home was peaceful, his child was secure, and his partner stood beside him with quiet strength. These were the things that mattered. As years passed, The story of the woman who was once blamed slowly transformed into the story of a woman who endured and rebuilt her life. Children grew, seasons turned, and memories softened. Pain did not disappear completely, but it lost its power to control her. In moments of reflection, she sometimes thought about her younger self, the woman who once believed her life had ended. She wished she could tell her that survival was not the end of the story, that dignity could be restored, that kindness, though rare at times, still existed. Her life did not become extraordinary in the eyes of the world. There were no grand rewards or dramatic victories. Instead, her success was found in peace, stability, and self-respect. She lived each day with intention, grateful for what she had built. In the end, her journey showed that a person's value could not be decided by tradition or misunderstanding. True worth was revealed through character, patience, and the ability to keep going despite hardship. By choosing compassion, both for herself and others, she turned a story of pain into one of quiet strength. And in that simple, steady life, she found something greater than acceptance. She found belonging.